Okay, so in tonight's video, we're going to talk about finding real solutions of our functions. By real, I mean numbers that don't involve I. Remember, we have two kinds of solutions. We have real solutions, which are numbers and fractions and things we've seen our whole life. And then there's complex solutions, which complex solutions or non-real solutions are solutions or answers that have that I involved, which involves taking the square root of negative numbers. So, example number 1 says find the solutions of, and then we have our polynomial here. So to do this, the first thing I'm going to do, here, let me write smaller so I'll have room. I'm going to graph the equation to find the whole number solutions. Now, for those who are Instagram and Twitter fans, that is a number sign, not a hashtag. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is graph the equation x cubed minus 8x squared minus 4x plus 32 in my calculator. Then you can either solve for the zeros using the calc function of the calculator, which is above the trace button. It's in blue letters. It says CALC. If you click that, you can calculate the zeros, or you can just go to your table. Anywhere we have a y value of 0 means that that function is equal to 0. So we want to look at the y values. Anywhere we have a 0, that x value is going to be a solution. So if I do that, that gives me that x equals 2. I gotta write smaller. X equals 2 and negative 2 as some whole number solutions. There may be more than that, there may be less than that, and 8 actually, if you scroll down a little further. So, however, yesterday in class, we learned something called synthetic division. So, it is not going to be good enough on a test for you to say, oh, I graphed it and I found 2, negative 2, and 8. We're going to have to prove any 0 we take from the calculator using synthetic division. For those that don't listen to this with audio, you didn't hear that. So for those who do listen to audio, make sure you tell your friends that we need to prove any 0 you find in the calculator using synthetic division. So to do that, we have x equals 2 as one of our solutions. So if we're going to prove it using synthetic division, we write our 2 outside and we draw our box. And we have 1 minus 8. Wow, that was terrible. 1 minus 8 minus 4, and then 32. And with synthetic division, I'll do this kind of slow but kind of fast because we learned this in class, but we bring down our 1. We multiply diagonally, so we have 2 times 1 is 2. We add down, negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Negative 4 plus negative 12 is negative 16. Negative 16 times 2 is negative 32, which leaves me a remainder of 0. If we have a remainder of 0, then that answer is a solution to the equation. So if you have a remainder of 0, then that number 2 is a solution to the equation. So I've proved x equals 2 as an answer because I was left with a remainder of 0. Now, I'm going to take what's left underneath. What's left underneath is a new polynomial. So I'll highlight this in green, then I'll write it in green. So that right there is a new polynomial, x squared minus 6x minus 16. So if I'm going to prove negative 2 is a solution, then I'm going to do synthetic division with negative 2 now. But I'm going to use this green polynomial. So 1, negative 6, negative 16. And we're going to bring down our 1. Negative 2 times 1, negative 2. Negative 6 plus negative 2 is negative 8. Negative 2 times negative 8 is positive 16, which leaves me a remainder of 0. So again, I have proved that negative 2 is a solution to the polynomial, because when I did synthetic division, I got a remainder of 0. So now I'll switch colors again. We'll go purple this time. So now that is a new equation. And that equation is x minus 8. I shouldn't write that big. That equation is x minus 8. The last thing I need to prove is the 0, 8. And I'm going to do this using synthetic division, and then I'll show you another way. And the other way I think we know. So I have the 0, 8. If I did synthetic division, we bring down a 1. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0. So I have a remainder of 0. So we have proved that x equals 2, negative 2, and 8 are all three solutions. Now, as far as when you get down here to x minus 8, if you just want to say x minus 8 equals 0, we add 8, x equals 8, I'm totally fine with that. You have to prove to me that they are zeros. The easiest way at the beginning is definitely going to be synthetic division, which gives me the quadratic x squared minus 6x minus 16. So if we do synthetic division again, we figure out that negative 2 is also a solution. And then that leaves us with the linear function x minus 8. And you can either subtract to get 8, like I did the second time, or we can just do synthetic division again. If you're confused, just use synthetic division over and over and over. And if you get a remainder of 0, then it is a solution. All right, so we have another example here. This one I'll do the synthetic division much quicker so we're not here all night. So if we're trying to find the solutions of y to the 4th minus 9y squared plus 20, I would graph that in my calculator. And when I graph it in my calculator, I get x equals 2 and negative 2. So I'll do 2 first. It doesn't matter which one you do first. So I have 1y to the 4th. I'm missing y cubed, so I need to have a 0 there. I have negative 9y squared. I'm missing y, so I need another 0. And then I have a 20. So synthetic division, bring down our 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. 2 times negative 10 is negative 20, which gives me a remainder of 0. So now I'm going to write my new equation, which I'll do it in green again. And the green equation is coming from what's underneath. So my original equation was y to the 4th minus 9y squared plus 20. My new equation, since my first one started with y to the 4th, this one is going to be x cubed. It's going to be 1 less, so plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 10. So when we're doing that, now I'm going to try negative 2. So we have negative 2 here. So we're going to do synthetic division again. 1, 2, negative 5, negative 10. We're going to bring down our 1, so we have negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 5, oops, it's not, is positive 10, which gives me 0. My new equation here is, do this in purple just to stay consistent here. So after we've proved 2 and negative 2, I'm left with the quadratic x squared minus 5. Now this one's a little different because if you look in the calculator, the only one it gives me is 2 and negative 2. However, I still have this quadratic x squared minus 5. How we're going to do that is we're not going to use synthetic division because we don't know what number to put outside as the solution because the calculator doesn't help us with that. So when we get down to this quadratic part, we have two options. We can well, three options, I guess. We can factor. If it's factorable, you can factor. If it's like this, we can solve using the square root method, which is a fancy word, but I'm sure we remember how to do it. I'll show you that's the way I'm going to do it. And if all else fails and you don't know how to do it, the quadratic formula always works. So if you're stuck with how to solve a quadratic, just use the quadratic formula, and it'll take us to the right answer. So what I mean by square root method is I'm going to write this up here just so I have more room. X squared minus 5 is equal to 0. We want to know, because in the original question we have equals to 0, so ours is equals to 0. And if I'm trying to find x, I can add 5 to both sides. So we have x squared equals 5. If I have x squared equals 5, to cancel out x squared, we need to take the square root, which gives me x equals plus or minus the square root of 5. So our answers here are x equals 2 and negative 2, and then x equals plus or minus the square root of 5. So when we're finding solutions here, use your calculator to find all the whole number solutions. So in this case, that gave me 2 and negative 2. We proved those whole numbers using synthetic division, and we want to work our way down to a quadratic here, x squared minus 5. Because when we work down to a quadratic, we know how to solve that using factoring or square root or quadratic formula. Use the method of your choice to solve the quadratic for your final x value. All right. Hope that kind of made sense, and I'll see you all in class.